Welcome to the His Call Technology Podcast, where we are communicating tomorrow's business needs today. From just outside Nashville, Tennessee, join His Call as we discuss all things telephony, data, and infrastructure related to business leaders. Here we go.
Welcome to another episode of the His Call Technology Podcast. This is your host, Chuck. Today I'm excited to have in the podcast studio with me Tom Ward. Tom is one of our account executives. Tom previously recorded a podcast with us. The title of that podcast was A Mile Wide, an Inch Deep, and it is one of our top 10 most downloaded episodes. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, Chuck, man. It's glad to be here. Wow, what a difference a year and a half makes in our world.
Isn't that the truth? There's a lot going on in our world since we last did a podcast together.
Yeah, some of the things we were talking about there that I thought, well, this is what we're going to focus on for 2020. Well, pandemic just kind of threw some of that stuff a curve, and then we ended up focusing on a lot of things that we really hadn't thought about, temperature scanners and work from home applications and all of those things that came up with needing to be able to continue to do business during a pandemic.
That's for sure. The pandemic threw a curve on a lot of things, didn't it?
Yeah, luckily we have the ability and capability of assisting customers in a lot of different areas. So although what we thought we were going to be focusing on 2020 changed, we were still able to have a successful business and continue to work on and support our customers. So that's the good thing.
That is the good thing. It's interesting how the conversation changed through COVID. Right now, customers are thinking about how do I get people working from home. I had a conversation with a customer today. They're looking at a new phone system. One of their primary objectives is we've got to be able to work from home. And they're running an old system that they just really can't work from home with what they have today. 2 years ago, that would have been a nice to have. Today, that's a primary objective.
Yeah, you're not going to be deploying technology that you can't support a remote worker with going forward. And I think it's going to be that way. It's going to take us several years before we forget and don't have that as a priority, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tom, through this pandemic, how have you and your family, if you don't mind my asking, how have y'all made it?
We've done well so far. We've come through it okay. The blessing to work for a company like His Call that's nimble, and I've had a really good year. That hasn't changed. Luckily, a lot of projects changed, emphasis changed, but if you look at overall numbers on business that His Call was able to obtain during the pandemic, the overall level that I'm used to providing for His Call and for my family didn't happen to change much. Matter of fact, it was a really good year. So 2020 ended up being a great year. 2021 has been a great year so far, and so I'm just looking forward to continuing on and doing all those things.
Will you stay after it? You keep a lot of things stirring. We talked about that a little bit on the last episode. For 2021, who's leading the leaderboard anyway?
At the moment, it's me again.
Okay, all right. Well, good.
Yeah, so I'm still up there, but obviously that can change. There's I know some big things are in the pipeline. I just got to keep striving, keep going.
You think President's Club's is in reach this year?
Yeah, I should be at President's Club by the end of the month, I think.
Oh, by the end of the month?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's my goal.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So all this success that you're having and what you're selling, you talked about, some of the things changing what you're selling. And what are some of the big successes you've had? Maybe some unique opportunities that you've sold or new technologies or something like that.
Oh, it's there's been some interesting things. One of the target markets that His Call has gone into this just recently is the apartment complex market. We've had a lot of customers who are apartment complex,
right,
who had apartment complexes, but we had one that I'll call out. Won't mention them by name because I didn't get it clear beforehand, but Google Fiber gave them a bunch of microduct, which is what you run a fiber optic cable in, and they needed that run into each one of their apartments. And so they needed somebody to run that So we're going to do that. So that's our first thing that we're doing something for Google Fiber, where they've asked the new apartment complex being built to have that run. It's always something new, but that was an interesting one, and very happy that the customer trusted us to do that for them, and looking forward to getting that one done. That's something that it just came in, I guess probably started recently, and just going to get started on that project probably within the next week or so.
That is very interesting. I had not even heard about that project. So that's good. That cabling infrastructure is outside of my normal day-to-day stuff, so I don't always hear about all the big projects they've got going on. But that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that was interesting. And of course, now that HisCall is in the cloud business, which we've been in that for a little while, but now we're providing actual dial tone services for customers. That's exciting because there's so many people that are so frustrated with their phone company, and they're frustrated with these large cloud companies where they're just a number to them. And I was talking to one last Thursday, met with them, and they said they were on trying to get a hold of their cloud telephony provider. They were on the phone for 3+ hours and couldn't get a hold of anybody. The only way they could get a hold of somebody was if they hit the button to pay a bill, and then they could get a live person. It's no different. These large cloud companies, they're just like the phone companies. Their service is not very good, and they were very excited to hear about how HisCall can take care of them just like we always have. The opportunity is there. It's a tremendous amount of opportunity. I just appreciate a company that's willing to see those opportunities and really respond to customers who are begging us to help them out in so many ways. We've got another customer who's been a customer for years and years and years. And, she just didn't realize that we did audiovisual systems. She goes, "You mean I don't have to go to this other company anymore who doesn't return my calls? I can just go to you like I have for our cameras and our cabling and all these other stuff?" So, yeah, not a problem. So we'll be doing a work for them. That's small stuff. Nothing's really big in that scenario, but taking care of customers, that's HisCall's philosophy, and customers need it. It seems like now more than ever.
Well, that is HisCall Voice Connect you're talking about. We're going to be doing an episode on that in the coming months. So that is an exciting new offer that we have, and expecting big things there. What customer has 3 hours to sit on the phone trying to get help on a product that they pay every month for?
In this case, this customer is small, but it's still a $300 a month or so invoice to this large nationwide company, and they can't even get a live person to talk to.
Yeah. Tom, you named a bunch of products, technologies. In our last podcast, we covered a lot of things. That's where the title of Mile Wide and Inch Deep came from. You know something about everybody we sell. So today, we want to get a little deeper into one technology in particular. You brought to HisCall Sapling is a company that has been pioneering clock systems for a couple of decades or something. Tell us how you got involved, or how you brought Sapling to HisCall.
Well, I had done this at another company before, and it's a low voltage application. HisCall does low voltage applications. That's what we do. This scenario, it's something that we've all seen. If we went to a school, we saw this scenario. Which is a clock-based solution where all the clocks are on the same time. So obviously every clock in a classroom's got to be on the same time. And so I'd worked with these type of clock systems before, and had one of my customers in the medical field that they're like, "Hey, I need a clock system for my small surgery centers." I said, "Well, I think I can do that." But I hadn't looked at the technology in a while, frankly. And so I needed to get refreshed in that technology, as they say. And so I dug into it and looked at 2 or 3 different manufacturers, and we settled on Sapling as the product and the manufacturer that had a lot of flexibility and can do whatever we needed. It's been a good solution for us. It's a great product, real flexible, manufacturer's easy to do business with. There's a tremendous need for that in a lot of different industries where you need that consistency of time over multiple devices throughout a building.
So you're talking about a synchronized clock system that provides the same exact time to all the clocks in the system. And it was a surgery center that asked you about providing those for them. Why is that important in a surgery center?
Well, the scenarios are that you have charts and you're always recording charts, and whether it's electronic or manual, if you're doing a surgery and you look up on the wall and you write down the time as 9:45, they're leaving surgery, and then they get into the post-op bed at 9:40 because the post-op bed's 8 minutes behind the surgical clock, then you've got messed up charts. That just causes all kinds of problems because now everything's electronic. And so it wasn't as huge a deal when it was all paper, but now it's all electronic, and that just flags all kinds of problems. So now your clocks have to be synchronized so that the OR clock and the clock in post-op and the clock in pre-op are all on the exact same time. Before, these synchronized clock systems made a lot of sense if you were in a school and you had 100 of these clocks scattered all about the school system. Or you were in a large manufacturing facility and you needed these clocks all synchronized. And frankly, they're great, but they're expensive solutions for if you want to do just 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 8, something like that. Having a full-blown synchronized clock system where you have a server and all the clocks cable back to the server, it's quite the undertaking. So that was what I was familiar with, but I dove into it. We were able to find a small solution that worked well.
Well, when you first brought it to his call, it took me a little bit of thinking to figure that there is a lot of opportunity to have synchronized clocks. You're talking about things being so digital today, having everything synchronized, and you think about different applications where time is important. You talked about in the surgery center of proper time on records. You mentioned school system also, hugely important, but court systems, manufacturing where people are paid on their time in and time out and all this kind of thing. All big reasons to have a synchronized clock system.
Yeah, and a lot of those, traditionally they've been using those for years in schools, obviously, and large manufacturing facilities and hospitals. And those large synchronized clock systems, they're large, they can be somewhat sophisticated, and those are great. But how do you get something with that same flexibility and functionality at the small end? And that's what we've determined. And, frankly, it's just the Internet of Things. The need for this large server that speaks to all the clocks and keeps every clock's connected to it. And this server that's in your facility manages all those clocks and everything. Nice thing now is we have national time clocks, world clocks that are just on the internet. So as long as you have a clock that can reach the internet, you can now have, even if you just need one, but you want it to be perfectly in time with the world clock, you can simply put this clock in and point it to the internet, and it gives you 100% accurate time right up there on the wall.
So you've got a master clock that is controlling the secondary clocks. It's getting its time from NTP. I read also it could be provided from a GPS receiver as an option if you needed to do that.
Those options are available as well. Yeah, I mean that's the traditional was it was a server-based scenario where you had a master clock and then it fed all the other clocks. Mm-hmm. Now, if you say I only need 5 or so or 10, you don't have to have a master clock. You just sync all the clocks and point them to the time server on the internet, and they are all standalone. So, which is a much less expensive. Now, if you have a lot of clocks, it's still less expensive to do the synchronized, centralized controller because the individual clocks are less expensive. But if you just have a handful of clocks, it's less expensive to just have the intelligence at the clock. Mm-hmm. I guess is the best way to describe it. It's where the intelligence is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, do you buy centralized intelligence in a clock that doesn't know a whole lot, or do you have intelligence at each clock? It's just a numbers game of how many clocks you need.
Right.
That's how it works.
These surgery centers where you're providing these, are they using standalone model, or are they using where they have a master clock controlling the secondaries?
We're doing the standalone model for the majority of them, unless they're going to be big. They don't need a lot. They, depend on how many ORs they have and how many patient bed areas they have. So it really, so far at this point, most of the centers haven't been large enough to justify the centralization and the complexity of getting all that set up. Mm-hmm. It's easier just stick the clock on the network and let it operate.
So these are PoE clocks there.
Correct. Yeah. The PoE, they don't need, you can do wireless versions of that, but when something's just got to work, I'm not a big fan of wireless because then your Wi-Fi connection can have a problem. You can have a power issue where you don't have, the battery runs down or what have you. And it's just easier if it's hardwired, and that way it just is going to work.
Okay. These clocks they're hanging on the wall, are they traditional looking clocks? Do they have options there?
Well, and that's the beauty of Sapling, and anybody listening to the podcast can just simply go to Sapling Clocks and the web page. But there is just so many different varieties of clocks. You can do a digital readout. You can do an analog readout, traditional clock readout. You can have more of an industrial look. You can have more of a upscale, nice business or even semi-residential look. Say if you want something in like maybe a nursing home or something like that, you could probably go with that look. So there's tons of different looks, and so you have a lot of flexibility there. And that's nice, and that's one of the reasons we really like the Sapling product. It gives us a lot of flexibility for customers to choose what look and feel they need.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to propose the synchronized clocks in other areas or just in the surgery centers right now?
Mostly in the surgery centers. I have, recommended utilities. It's useful in a lot of areas. And, it's not just clocks. There's countdown timers. There's sometimes you have machinery that there's a certain thing that has to happen. If it doesn't happen in a certain amount of time, then additional processes have to be taken to get that equipment back online. Well, maybe having a clock by that piece of equipment that, give you a countdown timer like, hey, if you don't get this system back online, then
it's going to cost us money.
It's going to cost us money. We're going to have to more or less do a full reboot of some process. I had a customer that had some vats that were at 3,000 degrees. If they did not have power to those vats for a certain amount of time, they just couldn't reheat them. They had to do all kinds of work. So it was critical. So, that might be a countdown timer. If whatever reason the vat's offline, you've got 2 hours. And if you don't get that vat back online 2 hours, then machinery that's needed for that may be down for days.
It is very interesting. Lots more opportunity than I ever anticipated when we first started talking about Sapling Clock Systems. Hey, I want to talk about the surgery centers for just a minute, if we can, while we're kind of in the area. You mentioned that it's a low voltage application. Low voltage applications are what we do. You do a lot of work for the surgery centers that you assist around the country, from design to implementation. A lot of different low voltage applications. What all are you doing? From infrastructure to synchronized clocks, telephony, network, what else?
Well, nurse call's a big one.
Yeah, nurse call.
I guess nurse call is where it drives it, because the nurse call solution is the life safety device that has to be done and has to be done right.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it kind of starts from there. Then telephony comes along, whatever that's. I've got different surgery center companies that we do just about everything for, and I have some that, maybe we just do nurse call. Mm-hmm. Or, some other part of it. It really just kind of depends. But nurse call is the thing that has to be done right, because if it's not done right and you don't know what the codes are and you don't install it the way code people or the state are going to require it done, then they don't open for business. And, medical facilities who aren't open don't bill. It's thousands of dollars if you have to skip a week or 2 weeks or a month because that inspector said, oh, this isn't done right.
Excellent. That's exactly right. Well, Tom, what are you looking forward to most in finishing out this year?
Finishing out this year, I'll just keep on working on different projects. I guess personally, I've just put my youngest daughter off to college, and so I'm finding out that I actually like hanging around my wife. So That's been nice. But I got a lot of great customers. My hope is to be able to get out and see them. With COVID surge that's come back, may not be going out and visiting and eating with customers and making sure that they're doing well in a face-to-face meeting. But, hopefully this kind of get behind us here before too long and we can start that back up. I thought we were about to do that as of this summer, but here we are in September and things aren't trending in the right direction. But, hopefully we'll see.
Now, I was just about to say, you've been able to do a little bit of traveling this year. You've been to Florida. You just recently came back from St. Louis, I believe, right?
Yeah, those were good trips. And we had a great customer appreciation dinner a couple weeks ago at a really neat little restaurant in Martin, Tennessee called the Opera House. Had a lot of customers there, and I appreciate them coming out, and that was really good.
Well, Tom, thank you for coming in to Dixon today, sitting down here at the podcast studio with me and talking about synchronized clocks. If you would like to get more information, hey, give Tom a call or give his call. Reach out to us here, and we'll put you in touch with somebody. If you want to check out their website, it's sapling-inc.com. So check them out.
It's a really neat application.
Well, thanks again, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the His Call Technology Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast so you can stay up to date with today's business communication trends. To learn more about His Call solutions for your business needs or to listen to previous podcasts, visit us at our website, hiscall.com.